On Thursday, the world witnessed a major event with Russian President Vladimir Putin unveiling intercontinental nuclear weapons that he said the world had never seen before. He says they cannot even be tracked. He caused quite a stir, and the world is still responding to the news. There's even talk of a new arms race. But what is obvious is that countries around the world are preparing for the shape of future worlds. This is to be expected as science and tech is changing the world in a radical manner. It is a world where wars are now being fought with drones, and even the nature of the enemy is changing. In Nigeria, this is the experience as the country battles with recurring security challenges. Asymmetric war is how they describe the current nature of our conflict. Obviously, there's a need urgently to prepare for the inevitable. So, preparing for tomorrow's security challenges will be our focus on Nigeria Today, and that is because it will be the subject of an upcoming National Security Seminar. I am Wilfred Ewalifu. Welcome to Nigeria Today. Thanks for staying with us, and this is Nigeria Today, and we're discussing preparing for tomorrow's security challenges. And I'm joined in the studio by two gentlemen who are regulars on the NTA. Let me first of all introduce the first commander of the Multinational Joint Task Force and president of the Alumni Association of the National Defense College, Brigadier General Jonathan Temlong. It's good to see you again, sir.
Thank you. Good to see you, Wilfred.
And also here with us is another regular security analyst, Air Commodore Darlington Abdullahi. He's also secretary of the Alumni Association of National Defense College. It's good to see you again.
Always my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let's start on this note. On Thursday, Putin shocked the world with the information that there were now new weapons in the weaponry of Russia. How would you respond to that? And what does this say about the nature of future wars? Let me start with Commodore Darlington.
Thank you very much. Well, this, I wouldn't say this has come as a big surprise, so no, not at all, because wars have for some time have been driven by technology. A lot of developments in the field of technology dictating the rate at which combatants now have to take the challenges of face warfare. And the warfare itself is changing. So technology and warfare are moving together. For a country like Russia, it's like upping their deterrence posture, making it impossible for others to think about attacking them in any form. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. And as they keep improving technologically, then other nations, of course, if they want to be able to compete, in the field of warfare, then they too must be able to move. Just like we have non-state actors now, even doing more than even the state actors in the field of technology, coping. Like in cyber space now, we have. The non-state actors are making extensive use of that space, and in terms of recruiting members, doing all sorts, to enhance their operations, and we must be up.
Now we'll come to our reaction really. First of all, we're just trying to lay the foundation. General Temlong.
Yeah.
Right now we're talking about artificial intelligence, robotics, and all that. Which the current threat. What's your response, really, your reaction, to this announcement by Russia? Do you think it could provoke an arms race, even going by the comments of Air Commodore Darlington?
Well, actually, you expected that Russia will not fold their arms when America last year used a bomb in Afghanistan and said it was the mother of all bombs. It has not been seen before. And since the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Russians have been trying to get their feet back, because they have said that the unipolar world is quite a dangerous world, having America as the only hegemon in the world. And China coming up now very fast. Russia had to reassert itself And Putin saw that as an opportunity, as a challenge to the Russian Federation. And that's why you found out that he maneuvered himself to come back to the presidency of Russia and started working deliberately to match and if not outmatch the American military power. So it wasn't a surprise at all. It's something that has been offering, it has been planned, it's deliberate, they have worked towards it, and they have kept it so secret that the elements of surprise have been achieved to the extent that you find out that everywhere in the whole world now, the reaction has been that of a surprise to everybody, a fear of an arms race, but definitely an arms race has started already. We're going back to the Cold War era, where it was real arms race.
Okay, fine. Now, that's already, we're talking about the ripple effect on the rest of the world, and that brings it to us too, because there's like to be a ripple effect on us, and that's why we're talking about preparing for tomorrow's security challenges. Let's look at our own circumstance. Did we anticipate even the nature of what we're having today as security challenges? General Long.
Well, thank you for that. I think in the year 2000, 2001 and up to 2003, we worked on a document which was called the Vision 2020 for the Armed Forces of Nigeria. And for you to come up with a vision, you must do a threat analysis. And the threat analysis that we came out with was that the war, the future war that Nigeria will face will be asymmetric. Unfortunately, this document was prepared alongside with the MPRI, the Americans who came with us. And so prior to that, my own generation and the generation earlier were trained by the British Army training team in Staff College and the Infantry School in Jaji, where it was a Cold War era, so counter-revolutionary warfare was being taught. And with the collapse of the Soviet Union, I think people thought that revolutions have been put back into the dustbin. But the way you fight a revolutionary war, a counter-revolutionary war, it's almost the same way you fight an asymmetric threat of this nature, because the revolutionaries are either urban or rural. And that's the case we have here in Nigeria. They are urban and rural.
But but nonetheless,
but we didn't actually train towards that. So when I left the service, I thought they had continued training towards an asymmetric war, until we got the surprise when Boko Haram struck at the onset, and here there were comments coming out from the military high command and from government that we were not prepared for an asymmetric threat. And I think it was quite disturbing. But now you find out that when they started training, and it had to be cut down, napping, when we started training institute, then things have reversed, situation has reversed. So it's to avoid these sort of things that we think we must start preparing for tomorrow's wars today.
Yes, and Ekamodo, that comes to the next question. Yes. Can we actually predict the future security challenges? It's part of what you talked about initially about asymmetric warfare.
Yeah, thank you. Just like General Temlong did say earlier, usually you have to carry out a kind of threat analysis. I mean, to look into what kind of warfare do you expect. Just as it was predicted earlier that we're going to face asymmetric warfare, so it's very possible.
But let me come in here. There's certain conditions that naturally would dictate that kind of prediction. If you go back 20 years ago, did we have the kind of scenario that could have led us to think about asymmetric warfare? Even if you're doing a threat analysis.
Yes, obviously. Let me put it this way. For so many years now, we know that there has been lack of governance in certain parts of the country. I mean, weak government. Spaces, occupied by the insurgents and terrorists and so on, started coming up to the extent that it became difficult for even the nation's armed forces to access certain parts of the country, just like we have in the Sambisa forest, and so on. So, I mean, we saw this thing coming gradually. But by the time the governance starts failing, local governments kind of disappeared from the screen. They only exist at the end of the month, thereafter they disappear. And you know that within such areas, then problems will begin to breed. Of course, lack of care for the people, unemployment, keeps rising. We saw the figure rising. Poverty keeps increasing. So with all this, we should expect that people from that area will become highly susceptible to recruitment by criminally minded individuals and groups. And that was what we began to see. Indoctrination started a long time ago, and that accounts for why we have so many, in spite of the fact that let me say the terrorists are being killed in large numbers, but they still exist, and more people are joining because the factors that they say that makes it easy for recruitment, for them to recruit it, are prevalent in the society. So it is not difficult to predict that. Look, we're going to have
let me just come
difficult
in here,
situation ahead.
Because you touched on a very sensitive subject, the issue of indoctrination.
Yeah.
With the kind of society that we have, how do you prepare for that? When religion is a very touchy and sensitive matter in our society.
See, it doesn't come easy, but with a well-articulated program, bringing together the various stakeholders, gradually, that can be sorted. And we need to understand one fact, that combating terrorism is not just a function of the military. So when the military goes out there and says, look, we have the terrorists have been defeated to a certain extent, but we must realize that it's about the mindset of the people. Of those involved, and it takes time to erase some of those things from their mind. So when we have a well-articulated program involving not just the armed forces now, because the armed forces came in as a result of the failure of governance in the first place that brought about all the challenges that we're having. So governance must be, taken very seriously. The people must be able to, the government must be able to take care of, those within their areas of responsibility in terms of human security.
Okay.
And so on.
Okay, fine. Let's have your take, General Temlong. Fundamentally, let's start getting into the issue of what could be the future tomorrow's security challenges. From your analysis of as a group, what do you think we could be facing tomorrow?
Well, from our analysis, and probably not to preempt what the seminar will come out with, I think it will be more asymmetric as we go on, because the era of interstate wars are almost out, because the international community, or the UN as it were, has been quite effective in dealing with interstate wars. So it's intra. And it comes as a result again of weak governance, bad governance system, state not being able to provide for the basic necessity of the people, and education as it were, like you're talking about indoctrination. You see, when people are not educated and deliberately kept so, it's easy to indoctrinate them. No matter how strong the religious leaning are, how many of the children of the highbrow have you seen going to lace themselves with IEDs to go and explore as suicide bombers? You never see those ones, because they're educated, they know the value of life, and they have hope for life. So you have to put education in the front burner for those sort of people where they are. Even if it's going to be, it has to be side by side with the religious education. And that's why, one will actually fault the Al-Majri school system that was started by the last administration. Once you seclude those sort of people, they grow up with the stigma and the belief that they are Al-Majris.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me bring in Akamodo Darlington here. Where do we see the place of non-state actors in future security challenges?
Well, the non-state actors will continue to expand if the right measures are not taken on time. Because even as we speak, I think just like was it World Bank or IMF that said that recently, that Nigerians are getting poorer, and it's going to affect. It goes down the line. So
I'll
Non-state
just pause you
actors.
there. When we come back, we'll continue at that point. But
Yeah.
it's time to take a break now.
Okay.
We are looking at the tomorrow's security challenges on Nigeria today, and we'll continue after this time out.
Coming up on NTA News 24, Nigeria Today, 7:30, Monday to Friday, with exciting anchors on topical issues. Inspirators, a search for those who inspire others. Business 24, a business magazine program. Late edition repackaged. Fresh and exciting programming on NTA News 24. Stay with us.
Thank you for staying with us. We are discussing preparing for tomorrow's security challenges. Already as a country, we are dealing with some challenges, definitely. But then we must also look ahead and prepare for tomorrow. And that's really the thrust of discussion in the studio. And I have with me in the studios two very experienced security generals, so to say. And let me go back to General, to Air Commodore Darlington. You were talking about, the nature, particularly of non-state actors.
Yes, thank you. There is a possibility that existing non-state criminal actors will begin to factionalize, because some of them want to taste power as well, just as they have seen some of their leaders, and also disagreeing with some of their leaders. Then new actors will begin to emerge as well, and it takes a lot of dedicated efforts and so on to be able to bring down control the situation. And this involves, like we're talking about issues of technology. We must move ahead of them. Otherwise, there's going to be a serious problem.
Yes, talking about the issue of technology brings me to the same issue of, preparing the military itself. We're talking about governance issues so far, but really, when it comes to security, really, who is at the forefront? It's basically the military. So, General Temlong, how does the military itself prepare for tomorrow's challenges, the Nigerian military?
Well, it has to be a two-pronged thing. The military will come up with the vision, the concept, what they think it is, and throw it out to the civilian technological world. The problem is it is the actors, the military itself, that will think, look, there might be a possibility of us fighting more in urban terrain. Asymmetric. So what do we need? We might need more precision guided weapons as against area weapons to limit collateral damage. So once you start that idea, you throw it out the technological wall and say, look, as it is, we're going to fight in more in urban areas, and the people are going to, the bad guys are going to be more within the population. So we will not need aerial weapons per se. So that again gives you. And then the military looks at it and says, okay, we need long-range, capable drones that should be able to carry out surveillance around the country or even project far outside the country. So it means then you start taking of ranges and the endurance for the drones that we want. You could imagine the idea of drones came out as people thinking, look, playing with certain things. And in the end, you sit down, Americans sit down in a cool air-conditioned office and bomb targets in Afghanistan. So it limits the stress on the pilot. It limits, it increases the endurance that a normal combat aircraft will have, because you probably have to do refueling in the air and the rest. And so technology now becomes a multiplier for you.
Hey, General, I'll take up that point actually now with Air Commodore Darlington. When you joined the Air Force, did you think there were drones?
Well, we have, I read about there's a sense of success, but I didn't really imagine that we'll get to the point of...
okay, so against that backdrop, in the Air Force that you served,
yeah.
Can we anticipate tomorrow? Do we have the capacity, to actually anticipate tomorrow, and from a point of weaponry, prepare for it?
Very well, we can anticipate tomorrow. And I think the major issue there is the political will, because we have the ability to predict, to look forward to. the kind of warfare that we're going to experience. Like if you see from what is happening now, we can predict the future. Take for instance the recent event in Dapchi, the schoolgirls, the 110 schoolgirls that were taken away. I mean, if we have the right kind of technology, you know, it shouldn't be too difficult to trace them. We have invested so much in satellites, you know. So what are the satellites information? What are they providing for us regarding the movement of the terrorists with the girls? Because for them to take away,
you have not answered the question.
Yeah,
you asked a question. You say,
yeah,
what are they providing for us?
Yeah. So for them to have taken so many away, it meant that they used several vehicles as well. And this is something that a satellite with good resolution can assist us to track the
but that's
movement,
just that right now we're not even prepared for the current conflicts.
Yeah. So these things are in existence. All we need to do is to be able to, I mean, to derive the necessary benefits from it, and deriving such benefits.
Let me get you back. Let's get back. Let's stay with this point. These things are in existence, but are we using them? That's the first point, because you're talking about tomorrow. Let's deal with today. Forget tomorrow. General Temlong, you're coming in.
Yeah, I think what we need for this sort of things is you need spy satellites, because what we have here now are not spy satellites. And I thought too, because like what you see, when we were thinking of launching the satellites, it was more of a civilian use aspect that we were thinking about. But now that we've gotten to this stage, you know, it should be able to prompt us to start thinking of launching spy satellites. So even probably increasing the resolution of these ones to give you some of the things you need to do with a spy satellite. But be that as it may, it means then we were not actually preparing for future wars by then at that time. But as it is now, and that's what we are trying to do now, is to agitate the minds of the practitioners and the scientists and say, look, there are these gaps that are available in our own security architecture and the infrastructure that we have at the moment. And what are these gaps? That's been, as we prepare for tomorrow, we must fight today's war too. Keep pace with today's challenges, because they keep evolving. It's not something that you draw a line here today and say, okay, let's start tomorrow's war here. No, they keep evolving. And as they move, the bad guys are trying to move ahead of you. So you must continue with tackling the situation and moving ahead, that you give them a run for their money or a run for their knowledge.
Well, General, I must come in here because we're actually winding down. And that's, let me just bring in Air Commodore Darlington at this point. He's talked about, you know, basically the issues of science and technology. Do we need to evolve a military-industrial complex?
Definitely. The military has to be involved. If you look at the history of most of the scientific developments around the world, I mean, from the United States, the internet and all that, the military spearheaded those things coming into being. And I think the military armed forces of Nigeria will need to do something. And that was why, as part of the seminar, we're talking about developing a defense science and technology organization that will help us to improve in this area. Definitely.
Okay, General, when we talk about tomorrow, when exactly do we have in mind? When we say preparing for tomorrow's challenges, when is tomorrow?
Well, in the military, what you actually do is that you do long-range planning. Yeah, you start planning from between 15, 20, 25 years. That because you see, for you to fill in a system, sometimes the development takes you over 10 years for you. And so if you don't start thinking ahead that long and start working towards it, you are caught napping. So tomorrow could be for anything from 10, 15, 20, 25 years. And as you move forward, you increase the range. So if we say from today, 25 years from today, and in another 5 years, we'll start thinking about 25 years from 5 years. What have we achieved in these 5 years? So these are some of the things that you need to do. Definitely, because to develop a system, trials, fielding, and training those who operate them takes time.
And creating scenarios too, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have to create those scenarios. And as you move, things keep changing, so there must be flexibility in your plans.
So in the summary, Air Commodore Darlington, you talked about the fact that most likely the future challenge could be asymmetric warfare still.
Definitely. In a more factionalized manner, so we have more actors, you know, involved.
And all these, we should think much more about deploying science and technology.
Definitely. I think that will
Gentlemen,
help us out.
thank you very much for your comments and your
pleasure.
contributions to Nigeria Today.
Thank you.
And that's our program today. We have been discussing preparing for tomorrow's security challenges on Nigeria Today. And I'd like to once again thank our two guests, two very experienced military men, starting with Air Commodore Darlington. Thanks very much for coming to Nigeria Today. And also Brigadier General Temlong. Thank you very much for coming.
It's a pleasure.
That's our program for today. Thanks very much for watching. I'm Wilfred Ewalifu.